Hello and welcome to a Monkey Logic design tutorial. I'm Michael and today I'm going to show you how to build enhanced next buttons in Adobe Captivate. The buttons are enhanced because when they appear on a slide, they will be permanently visible for the entire duration of the slide without requiring any user interaction. Let's look at this finished project to see the difference between a standard button and an enhanced button. Slide 1 is set up with a standard next button while slides 2 and 3 have the enhanced next buttons. Pressing play, the next button will appear at 4 seconds and then pause the project. Scrubbing the play bar backwards, the next button disappears. Scrubbing forwards and the next button returns. Clicking next to go to the next slide, and then immediately on the back button, we return to the first slide and see that the next button isn't visible yet. This is normal behavior for Captivate buttons. Now we'll go forward to slide 2 to see the enhance button. This slide initially plays the same as the first slide. After a few seconds, the next button appears and pauses the slide. But look at what happens when I scrub the timeline backwards. I've not interacted with any of the slide's content, but the next button is now permanently visible for the entire duration of slide 2. Clicking the next button to go to slide 3, and then on the back button, the next button is still visible from the beginning of slide 2. Going forward to slide 3, the next button isn't visible yet until we reach the end of the slide. Scrubbing the timeline backwards, you can see that the next button on this slide is now permanently visible for the entire duration of slide 3. This new functionality is made possible by using the InfoSemantics plugin CP Extra. A link to the InfoSemantics CP Extra website page is available in the description of this video and in the text for the blog post if you're viewing this in the Monkey Logic Design blog. While this video is only covering a small aspect of the CP Extra plugin, I highly recommend visiting the InfoSemantics website to check out all the things that CP Extra does. There are things the plugin allows you to do, like what I'm about to show you, that Captivate cannot do otherwise. I do need to mention that I'm using headerless loading of the CP Extra plugin, which means it's automatically added to my project when I preview or publish the file in HTML5. You can see how to do this yourself from the InfoSemantics website. So let's get into the tutorial. First, I'm going to set up a back and a next button. Go up to Interactions, Button, scroll down the slide a little bit, and drag this button down to the lower right-hand corner of the slide. I'm going to change the caption to Next. I'm going to go to the Actions tab, enable the hand cursor, and I'm going to set the display to Rest of Slide, and uncheck Pause After. Finally, I'm going to name the button Next 01. Now I can duplicate the button by pressing Ctrl D, move it over to the left side of the slide. I'm going to change the on success to go to previous slide. Rename it Back 01. Go to the Style tab and change the caption to Back. I don't want the next button to be visible when you first visit the slide, so I'm going to reselect it and select the visibility option so it is not visible in output. Now I'm going to create a third button for the slide that's going to serve two purposes. The first is that it's going to be the object that's actually going to pause the slide, and the second purpose is it's going to be a CP Extra target object that's going to make the next button visible. So up to Interactions, Button, move it to the upper right corner of the slide so only the corner of the button is on the slide, and I'll explain why in a minute. I'm going to change the name to End of Slide. Change it from a text to a transparent button. Set the opacity to 0%. In the timeline, I'm going to move it over to the right so it's at the end of the slide. Enable the pause after for the button. And I'm going to go to my Actions tab and change the on success to no action. As long as an object is on top of a slide somewhere, Captivate includes it in the published project. By making it a transparent button, changing the opacity of the fill to 0%, and unchecking the hand cursor option, when the project is published, the end user will have no way of knowing that the button even exists on the slide. I just prefer putting the button in this location simply because it visually keeps it out of the way of the rest of the content on the slide. Before we set up the CP Extra variables and advanced actions which allow the button to be enhanced, I'm going to duplicate this slide a few times. Clicking on the slide in the film strip, press Ctrl D 3 times, and then I'm going to rename each slide so it's easier to keep track of what slide we're on when we're viewing the published project. Now we need to add two CP Extra specific variables. So I'm going to select Project from my main menu, go to Variables, click Add New, and the first variable I'm going to add is xcommand show. No default value, so I'll click Save. Click Add New again, and then xcommand add event listener. Also with no default value, and click Save to save it. The xcommand show variable does the same thing as Captivate show command, but the CP Extra plugin allows wildcards when specifying object names. This way we can set up an advanced action that targets objects using the same prefix, suffix, or even a combination of both throughout the entire project. The first wildcard is the @ symbol, which only targets objects on the currently viewed slide, and the second wildcard is the hashtag or pound symbol, and it targets objects throughout the entire project. So let's create an advanced action. I'm going to close my variables. I'm going to go up to Project, Advanced Actions. Standard action is what we need, and I'm going to name this action End Slide Trigger. Double click in the first Actions field, select Assign, type xcommand so I can shortcut to the variables I added. Xcommand show is what I want. Select literal from the list, and I'm going to type next at, and then save as action. Because I specified the name next at, each time this advanced action is executed, it's going to show any object on the current slide that starts with the name next, and it's also case sensitive. Closing the advanced actions, you can see that the only object on this slide that starts with the name next is the next 01 button, and it's set to be hidden in the published file. If the advanced action we just created is executed when viewing this slide, only this next button will be shown. Going to slide 2, because the next 01 button was duplicated when we duplicated the slide, Captivate added a new suffix to the button name. However, since it still starts with the name next, when the end slide listener advanced action is executed when viewing this slide, only this next button will be shown. I'm going to go back to slide 1, and I'm going to scroll up to the end of slide button, and I'm going to change the action to execute advanced actions, and end slide trigger is automatically selected because it's the only advanced action at the moment. The other variable we created, xcommand add event listener, monitors a project for when something occurs. For this tutorial, we're going to have it listen for when any of the end of slide buttons appear on a slide, and then instruct it to execute slide 1's end of slide button's advanced action, which is the end slide trigger. I'm going to go up to Project, Advanced Actions. Standard action is what we need. And I'm going to name this one End of Slide Listener. Double click here, go to Assign, shortcut to xcommand, add event listener, select literal. First we need to tell this variable what object and event to listen for, which is end of slide hashtag, comma, space, the word enter, comma, space. So far, this means that xcommand add event listener is waiting for when an object starting with the name end of slide enters or appears on the slide. Since the end of slide button appears on this slide at 4 seconds, the xcommand add event listener will be triggered. The next part is to tell xcommand add event listener what to do. CP Extra can't execute advanced actions directly, but it can tell buttons to execute their advanced actions. So I'm going to give it the button name, which is end of slide, comma, space, success, and enter. The second half of this then tells the end of slide button to execute whatever is assigned to its on success action. I'm going to save this and then close it. You can see that the button's on success is set to execute the advanced action end slide trigger, which shows anything on the currently viewed slide that starts with the name next. The last step is to have the project execute the advanced action when the project starts. I'm going to click outside the slide so I can get to the slide's properties. Go to the actions, select execute advanced actions from the on interaction, And End of Slide Listener is selected because it's alphabetically higher in the list of advanced actions. Now we can view the project. And I'm going to hit play. Slide is playing. Next button isn't appearing yet. We hit 4 seconds. The button appears, pauses the slide, and if I scrub backwards, the next button stays visible. Clicking the next button, returning back. Next button is visible from the beginning of the slide. Clicking next again to go back to slide 2. The next button isn't visible at first, but it appears, and scrubbing backwards, you can see the next button is now visible permanently from the beginning of the slide. And this is then true for slide 3. Scrub back, and even if I scrub forwards to slide 4, you can see the next button is not there yet. I'll click play. Next button appears, scrub backwards, and the next button is permanently visible. And that is how to build enhanced next buttons in Adobe Captivate. I'm Michael with Monkey Logic Design, and until next time, keep looking for ideas to take your creativity further.